Hi, everybody. I'm Richard Sher, and it's time to square off. And we welcome back to square off the Man of Steel, MSNBC's bright, talented, charismatic, a news superstar, a great political analyst, Michael Steele. Michael, this is like your sixth or seventh appearance.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
Good
How
to see you, man. Richard, you're looking good, baby. I mean, like, you got the hair all coiffed, you got the tie, you're looking good. What you doing with yourself?
Well, I have another hour. Go ahead. Keep more compliments. No, Michael, here's a tough question to start with.
Sure.
How would you characterize the state of our union right now?
I would characterize the state of our union as unsettled, as we are heading into our 250th birthday. The American people have decided to shake things up. And they have at least said so far that they are angry, frustrated, concerned, all of those things. And they have bought into an idea of disruption that is not only shaking the foundations of the country, I believe, but shaking the core of who we identify as a nation. And the things that our parents and our grandparents valued are of little or no value to this generation. In fact, I look at this generation of Americans as the most selfish in history because the conversation is about me, my, why me, you're doing well, I'm not. And that has never been the character, despite all the things that have happened to us as a nation. From slavery to Jim Crow to civil rights to women's rights to gay rights, all of those things that have pushed at the edges and reshaped the fabric of the nation. There was always a landing point of consensus around the idea, well, this is who we are. We are a pluralistic society. Yes, it takes some others longer to get there than some others, but we get there together. This is different. And I think it's different for a whole host of reasons that sociologists are going to be studying and writing about. But unfortunately, we've got to live through it. And I think right now that contributes to a great deal of the unsettled nature of our politics, our economy, our communities. And I think we could ultimately pay a dear price for it.
Are you disappointed where we are right now?
I'm extremely disappointed because I know we're better than this. And we have not settled for the lowest common denominator in our political discourse. We've never settled for the lowest common denominator in how we view our neighbors. And the fact that you have people who have this idea of the country as looking a certain way, and sounding a certain way, believing a certain way, is disturbing. It's not just disruptive. It's disturbing, and I think that Americans need to check themselves right now and get a grip. Yes, we've always had problems. Yes, economies have always ebbed and flowed and expanded and contracted, both nationally and personally. Yes, we've always been just a little bit, oh, who is that new neighbor moved down the street, right?
Right.
But we've never gone to the point where we're like, well, why are they here? Get them the hell out of here. And so this side of us is much more aligned with a dystopian view of America. And that's what gives Donald Trump the edge, because he preys on that. And he uses it in a way, as we see in so many instances, that either massages his ego in those who fawn and capitulate over him, or puts us all in a position that I think will be harder for us to recover from later on.
It seems that every day the other shoe drops.
Yep.
When you think you've seen it all, Then you find out he wants Greenland. He wants to send the vice president and his wife to Greenland. He wants the Panama Canal. He wants Canada to be our 51st state. He wants to change the election laws. He wants to do away with federal courts. I mean, it is frightening. It
Right.
is.
And Americans have to ask themselves, are you okay with that? And there's some people probably watching this show saying, yeah, I am. Okay. Well, then be prepared to deal with the consequences because it's coming for you too, boo.
Well,
Don't think that you're just going to slide by and reap benefits from all of this because that's not how this works.
speaking of
That's not
benefits,
how this works.
right? And speaking of benefits, all of our viewers who are over that certain age, everyone is concerned about the future of Social Security.
Yeah.
And the former
Say goodbye to it. And say goodbye.
What,
I mean,
what
look, they're closing Social Security offices. What they're shutting down the phone service. What the hell you would think happens? What do you think happens here? And you have the Commerce Secretary telling us, "Oh, well, you can afford to miss a month." Okay.
How about that soundbite from him? I wish we had it. Saying
It's stunning. The arrogance that we are allowing the richest people on the planet to carve up the country in the way that Elon Musk has and other cabinet members in this administration are doing, from the Department of Education to Social Security to Department of Commerce, whose attitudes I mean, it's worse than, the idea of being born with a silver spoon in your mouth. I mean, you got a whole freaking drawer of utensils that clearly indicate how out of touch you are with everyday folks. What are your grandparents going to do? And here's the thing, which rubs me so raw on this, is that everybody doesn't have a relative, a friend, or family member who will be there to cover them for that month, who will help them pay their bills and put food on their tables for that month. What do they do? Who do they go to? They can't turn to Social Security because you just shut it down. You can't call an agency of the federal government because you fired all the people who would answer that call. So who do they turn to? And the point is, they don't want you to turn to anyone. As the head of OMB said, Mr. Vaught, that hey, we want to create the pain. We want to bring pain to federal employees. We want them to quit their jobs. It's easier than having to fire them. So this is their attitude. So when you hear this comment about, well, you can afford to miss a month. Oh, my mother-in-law won't complain. She'll just think, oh, something happened. Well, she ain't worried because she got you. You're a damn billionaire.
talking
So
about the Commerce
what do you think is
Secretary.
going to happen when your wife goes, my mama needs some money this month because her check didn't come? Everyone doesn't have that. And this is the piece that I go back to what I said about people thinking that they're going to be on the good side of the benefits. There are no good sides to benefits because there are no benefits to anyone except a very, very small group of people at the top. That's what Elon Musk is enriching himself. He's up there whining about, oh, I lost, value in Tesla. So Donald Trump puts Teslas on the White House lawn and opens up a car dealership for him. What small business owner has that access when they have to jack up the price of their cars to sell to consumers by $10,000, $12,000 because the president of the United States have put tariffs on our allies and those imports and exports have increased. So there we are.
Tell you what we're going to do. Ooh, got me nervous. We're going to take a quick break. Howard Mallison, the voice of Square Off, whom you know, he's going to talk about our 4 sponsors, and we will be right back. I want to talk about Signalgate, okay? Signalgate. Here's Howard.
Thank you, Richard. First of all, Square Off wants to thank our 4 advertisers for making this show possible. The insurance companies cannot tell you where to take your car. That's why so many drivers are trusting their auto repairs and maintenance to leading edge auto body and mechanical repair. Call 410-443-6433 or visit them at 5807 Falls Road in Mount Washington. And the law firm of Barry Glazer for personal injury, medical malpractice, or nursing home neglect. Barry Glazer has an in-house doctor and nurse on staff, and he gets top dollar from the insurance companies. So call Barry at 410-457-8568. And buy Double T Diners with locations all over the area for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You can't beat the Double T menu. Double T, totally terrific. Double T Diners voted #1 diners and reader polls all the time. And podiatrist Dr. Kelly Gagan,
Oh,
number
yeah.
one in laser treatment for unsightly toenails, safe, painless, and work better than any over-the-counter treatments. Call Dr. Gagan at 410-753-4422 for an appointment. Now back to you, Rich.
Dr. Gagan, by the way, is fantastic. Fantastic.
That's
All right, we're talking exclusively today with MSNBC's Michael Steele. He is co-host of The Weekend, Saturday and Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern with Alicia Menendez, Simone Sanders Townsend, and soon, ladies and gentlemen, soon, the three of them are moving to prime time on MSNBC. Michael, explain that to our viewers.
Well, so the network is, as people may have read or heard, has gone through a shakeup. It is now technically known as SpinCo, which means that it has broken off from Comcast and NBC News, and so it's a standalone entity. And they're doing some new programming. Our show, which is a weekend show, is now moving to prime time. So we'll be on Monday through Friday nights at 7 p.m. on MSNBC, technically MSNBC. It'll be a lot of fun. Monday nights will be 2 hours, and the rest of the week will be an hour. And it'll be the same kind of crazy fun we have on the weekends, brought to prime time with Alicia and Simone. We have a good conversation, because that's really, it's not your typical show where it's all focused on, okay, your turn to talk, your turn to talk. It's interactive and it's a lot of fun.
When does it go into effect?
So we will officially launch, I believe the timing is the beginning of May. So look at that first week of May. And in between, each of us is taking a week to host the 7 o'clock hour in rotation. So I just finished up hosting last week. Simone is hosting this week. Alicia will be hosting next week, and then I'll be back in rotation hosting for a week as we lead up to the first week of May.
You have come a long way since you were almost a priest.
Yeah. The Lord has been great.
You prepped for 3 years, and what did you do? You became Lieutenant Governor of Maryland.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, Rich, you and I've had this conversation, and I know you appreciate the journey over the years, but that part of my life has anchored so much of what I do now and what I value now, and it's where I draw the strength to call out, bad government, to call out bad servant leaders, and to hold myself as well as everyone else who hope to, serve people and represent them to a higher standard. And that's always been, I was talking before about how, the country has a certain set of ideas and values that we've always kind of relied to and fallen back on during hard times. And we need to rediscover those values and hold on to them, because they have been the anchor for this 250-year experiment. And right now we have far too many of our fellow citizens who want to walk away from that or give up on it because they're afraid. Well, you can be afraid, but find strength in your neighbors, and find the comfort of knowing that your hard time is our hard time. We'll work through it together. We don't need to bring pain to everyone because you're in pain. And I think that is, for me at least, an important lesson that I've learned, and particularly for those who follow under the Christian, calling and banner, or however you want to call themselves Christian. I see a whole lot of not very Christian behavior out there right now, and it's very disturbing. And I think, again, we just need to check ourselves.
Boy, Well, let's talk about Signalgate, if that's
Yes.
for you. This was a major security breach when Atlantic Magazine editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg started receiving top-level communications. This is amazing. He's sitting there in his office, and then these communications come on the commercial app Signal, the security chat room, about an upcoming series of airstrikes on Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen. President Trump dismisses the security failure as the only glitch in 2 months, and he calls it a witch hunt. Michael, what do you call it?
Well, I ignore anything the president says about this because it's rubbish. It's just rubbish. He knows, as commander in chief, he should be really concerned and he should express that concern outwardly for the American people because the American people know what this is. We ain't stupid. I'm sorry. And even those who want to pretend and sort of take the side that Trump is laying out there because, well, that's all they know how to do, they know better. Everyone knows it's a breach. And just ask yourself, if this had happened under Joe Biden's administration, you would be apoplectic. These Republican senators and members of Congress would be falling all over themselves, getting to a bank of microphones to condemn it because they are so pro-defense, right?
Right?
And national security. So they would be the first ones out there screaming. But what do you hear? Crickets. And again, it does not serve our nation when we cannot point out that the emperor is not wearing any clothes. And right here, right now, Pete Hegseth and those on that call have failed. I'm sorry, daggone well, you're not supposed to be doing that kind of a call on a Signal app. That's why they have skiffs. That's why they have, secure facilities inside and outside of the White House for people to have these conversations. So when you are texting, for example, weather is favorable, just confirmed with CENTCOM, we are go for mission launch, right? And then you're going through this whole thing, strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop. And that's at 14:15. If that's in the hands, that's intelligence. That's put in a chat 2 hours before the strike. And so if that chat is compromised, which it was by having Jeffrey Goldberg on the chat, our enemies get that. And they now can put up the defensive air measures they need to stop our planes from dropping those bombs, which means men and women die. And so can you just own that? Can you just be big enough to say, damn, we made a mistake. This should never have happened. It will not happen again. And guess what? Heads will roll. And then roll those heads. But don't sit here and play us for stupid and act like we don't know and see what happened here.
Should the Secretary of Defense Hegseth, should he be fired? Or perhaps National Security Advisor Michael Waltz? Democratic lawmakers are calling for both.
I think, the Secretary of Defense, I watched him yesterday, looking like he was I don't know what he's about to go do, but anyway, just very cavalierly, but I could hear the defensiveness in his voice in answering the questions. But he's trying to be cavalier, nonchalant about it. The National Security Advisor Walsh, yeah, he should go because he's the one who put the call together. He's the one who put the names in the text. JG was probably the initials that he was going for, which is someone, I forget the person's name, but someone in the national security apparatus has the initials JG, and that's probably where. But don't sit there and tell me that you've never talked to Jeffrey Goldberg and you don't have his phone number, because only way he gets in the chat is you have to have his phone number. So again, we ain't stupid. And so yeah, if it's me, the buck stops ultimately with who's in charge. Who's in charge here? The National Security Advisor or the Secretary of Defense? Secretary of Defense. should there should be a pound of something coming off of them for it. But we'll see. I don't think this administration will do it because they know there's nothing anyone can do about it except scream and shout that someone should be fired. The Congress can't fire them. They won't. There may be hearings. So what? They don't care. They don't care about the administration of government. They don't care about accountability and the processes that are required for that accountability. They don't care. So, there's just a lot of noise signifying nothing right now because nothing's really going to happen. I don't think. I'll be surprised. Let's put it that way, Richard. I'll be surprised.
President Trump is running this country through executive orders, not through Congress, not through the checks and balances. What is all that about? And how is he allowed, I know he's the president, but can you run a country based solely on executive orders?
No, you can't, because Congress has to appropriate money for that, or Congress has to have oversight over that. Congress plays a role. What is so disappointing to me is to how Democrats and Republicans in Congress have capitulated their authority and power over these years. Folks, let's back this up. This is not just Republicans behaving badly here or irresponsibly in Congress. This is Democratic Congresses, it's Republican Congresses, it's Democratic presidents and Republican presidents who since 9/11 have cleaved to themselves power. The Patriot Act was the door that flung open to this era that we're in, where everything gets sort of glommed into a national security bucket or a national security, concern. And people, okay, they know best. And the Congress is like, okay, we'll let the president declare a war action without the consent of Congress, which is in the Constitution. You can't go traipsing off to Iraq and start a war without congressional approval, period. And so you have these things that have been built up and allowed to be built up over time that have ceded power more and more to the executive branch. And so whether it was Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Donald Trump first term, or Donald Trump now, you have this reliance on executive action in order to move the needle for your administration because you can't do it legislatively. Congress is not going to write the bill to eliminate the Department of Education. And the only thing the president can do with his fancy little order is just say, I hereby eliminate the Department of Education. But that's bull because he can't.
But he does.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't,
No.
Because the department is only thing he can do is he can get rid of the people. But the department doesn't go away. And so the reality of it is it's all theater and it's bad disruption because he doesn't have the power. It was authorized by the Congress in 1979, and only the Congress can eliminate it. The Congress controls the budget. If the Congress wanted to, it could zero out the money for the executive branch, and then what would they do? Nothing, because they'd have no money to spend, because only Congress has the power to authorize the expenditure of funds. It tells you where to spend your money. And so those times where the executive branch have been questioned about where and how they spent monies, there have been hearings. My point being in all of this is that the congressional piece is the part that's broken because it is not doing what it is constitutionally required to do. And that is to enforce its authority as a separate but equal branch of government. Y'all familiar with y'all remember your civics out there, right? We have 3 branches of government. We do not have a unitary executive, which is what Trump wants to create. 3 branches. And unless you're down with tearing up the Constitution to give him absolute power, which I hope and pray you're not, then the Congress needs to get off its behind and do its job. I don't care if it's Hakeem Jeffries or Mike Johnson, but somebody's got to say, wait a minute, Mr. President, you don't have the power or the authority to do that, and start hauling the members of his administration in front of them and get them to account for what they've already done.
Who is
So,
going to come forward and take Trump on? Nobody in
who?
Congress. What?
Would you say who?
Who? What? Yeah. What? Yeah.
That's the big question. It should be members of Congress. It should be members of the Senate. I mean,
Well,
look, the Senate sat there. This is the most important, not important, but it sort of symbolizes all of this. So, Ms. McMahon, who's our Secretary of Education, who was in the last administration, is brought before the Senate for her confirmation hearing. And not one member of the Senate, especially Democrats, asked a simple question. One simple question. Why are you here? And just leave that there and have her answer why she was there. Because the President of the United States has said he wants to eliminate the department. So why are you here? Why are we having this conversation with you? You're a lame duck before you even start the job. Are you here to dismantle the Department of Education? Have her answer that question up front. And she would have, and she would have lied and said no. And what is she doing now? Exactly that. That's the failure of the United States Senate. That's the failure of our Congress. They put these people in charge. They let them go through. And I can tell you a lot of those Republican senators, a lot of them did not want to go along with the significant number of these appointments, but they didn't want to get on the wrong side of Trump. Oh my God. Elon Musk could primary me in the Senate. Well, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't be in the job if you're afraid of losing it. I mean, public service is looking for fearless leaders who are less concerned about their damn job and more concerned about doing it well and right for the American people or the people they represent. What happened to that? I mean, Bob Ehrlich and I did that for 4 years. I did the job as lieutenant governor as if it was the last time I would ever get the chance to do it. And it turns out it probably was. But you know what we did in that time? We got things done, from charter schools to reforming the small business enterprise effort in the state, looking at our criminal justice system. We got things done because we were unafraid of the election or the re-election. And people going into public service focused on getting reelected are not going to be good public servants. They're just not. And so that's a big part of this as well. So you've got this unitary executive being set up in front of us, a feckless, afraid Congress, and the only guardrail that's left is the courts. And now they're calling for just the random impeachment of judges. Why? Because they don't like their rulings.
and the president, is also on a sort of a revenge tour and getting even with law firms, getting even with judges.
Yes.
I mean,
Should that be the thing the president takes his time up with? Going after law firms who did what law firms do, represent those who need help? I'm sorry, you were the one involved in criming that got caught. You were the one that went before, your actions went before a jury of your peers, a grand jury, and they indicted you. You were that person. If you weren't involved in trying to overturn an election, your behind wouldn't have to show up in court and account for it. So don't be mad at the jury. Don't be mad at the judge. And don't be mad at the law firm, because they did what the system requires them to do. And so you don't like it, then don't do the criming. And you don't have to worry about lawyers. But, what do I know?
in a just released Reuters Ipsos poll, 82% of combined Republicans and Democrats agree that the President of the United States should obey federal court rulings, even if the president doesn't want to. But he doesn't want to. And also in this poll, Michael, Democrats and Republicans both, 82% of respondents agree that the Trump administration should continue to deport people they view as a risk despite the court order. So, they've taken hundreds of guys and put them in a terrible prison. I, I don't know. It's very frustrating. And I know that our viewers from both parties, particularly when you're thinking about Social Security or a 25% tariff on a foreign car you might buy. I mean, and is the Constitution ever in play anymore in this country, Michael?
Well, I mean, look, the goal is to minimize its importance and its impact as much as possible. To figure out ways to get around it. We saw the first example of that was the emoluments clause during Trump's first term, where he refused to account for his assets and basically raised several $billions for himself during his first term. And so look, the Constitution is there for a reason. Our founders wrote it the way they did after much trial and error, to set up this experience for how we govern ourselves. And it's in our, as we approach our 250th year, we're falling down. That poll fully expresses the conflict. 82% say, yeah, you should, you should follow the rule of law and do what judges tell you. But then, the next large 80-some% said, yeah, you should just indiscriminately grab people off the street and ship them away. And so what happens when the court says you shouldn't do that? And there's your conflict, right? And so the reality is we have to settle ourselves down now and stop feeling ourselves and feeling the pity and being upset. You hear this generational complaint, my kids aren't going to do better as well as I did. Well, you don't know that. You don't know that. And so all you're asked to do, as every immigrant who's come to this country has done, is to find the way to create that dream. So when you sit back, and I made this point a few weeks ago on this whole DEI crazy, for white folks out there, DEI applies to you too. It does. And stop buying the high-priced egg that says it doesn't, because you are very much a part of the same story of diversity in this country, that we are a diverse nation. How did you know that? Because the Irish are here, the British are here, the Germans are here, the East European. That's diversity, right? So that's
Right.
your ancestors, the people who were on boats at the turn of the last century. That's the diversity the country was talking about. That's what the diversity is. Oh, equality. Well, we want them to have an equal opportunity to realize the Maryland and American dream, right?
Right.
So that equality applies to all of us, because you don't want to be less equal than someone else. You want a system that recognizes the diversity, your ethnicity being from Ireland or being Romanian or being German, right? You don't want that held against you when you're applying for a job. You want equality and inclusion. Hey, I want to be a part of the game. I want to have access to the game. I want to be included like everybody else. So can we stop being stupid and selfish and reading something the wrong way because it has a brown tone on it? Because that's what this is. DEI is not the N word, people. All right? So stop acting like it is,
So
because
let
it
me
isn't.
boy, that's powerful. We've run over a little bit on our time, but
Sorry.
we don't want to give you up, particularly since you're going to become a big prime time star on MSNBC with your two wonderful female reporters. Last question then.
Yes, sir.
When you were chairman of the Republican National Committee, did you ever imagine, could you ever imagine that your Republican Party members who are in Congress would be hiding out and all we hear is crickets?
No. No. I no. I wish there were more Larry Hogan seniors in Congress. Men and women who will call out the bad behavior of the government, of the executive leadership. Men and women who will stand on principle and who recognize that, as every governor in this country does, that in order to govern, I have to work. Even when I have a supermajority, I still have to work to get things done, and that requires reaching across the aisle. As pathetic as that may sound to some people, it isn't. It's an important feature of how we govern ourselves. And if you want to set up a system going forward that ignores that, that tramps all over that, then be prepared for the kind of government you're going to get.
Michael, we love having you back on the
My
show.
friend, good to be with you.
It's always a pleasure. Give our love to your family, and good luck with you and the girl and the ladies.
Yep.
When you switch to prime time, you do a great job on MSNBC and are definitely a rising star. We will see you again on Square Off maybe in a few months.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back always, my friend. It's good to be with you and have a conversation.
Good luck. I hope there's some encouragement somewhere in your thoughts. Everybody, talking with Michael Steele, the man of steel, here on squareoff.net. We'll see you next time. Bye, Michael.